Try that. There was a red light on the microphone. So was that
Clayton,
mute?
can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry about that. I tried to dial in just by phone number and that wasn't working out apparently.
Testing our sound. We haven't even started, so I appreciate you coming.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm going to mute you, and then when it's your turn, you can unmute yourself. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:06. And please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board recognizes the value of public comment and the importance of involving the members of the public in its meetings. The board also recognizes the statutory and constitutional rights of the public to participate in governmental operations. To allow fair and orderly expression of public comments, the board will permit public participation in the following ways throughout this meeting. 1, during the public comment on non-agenda items portion of the agenda. 2, prior to a final decision on presented motions, and 3, at the discretion of the board chair on any matter of significant interest to the public. It is important to note that all participants remember board meetings are held in public but are not public meetings. Therefore, public comment is not intended to be a question and answer session between the board and public. In addition, public participants may be interrupted or terminated if comments are out of order, too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or violate the privacy of another individual. For agenda items requiring action, the board's process is to present a motion, a second, conduct board discussion, and then receive public comment. The board will then engage in further discussion prior to voting on the issue. If you wish to participate, please wait until the board asks for public comment and raise your hand. If you are on a mobile device or computer, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you are participating by phone, press *9 to raise and lower your hand. As the presiding officer, I will acknowledge you and you will be unmuted to provide your comment. Please identify yourself to the board. And with that said, as Teresa mentioned earlier, if you're online, in line with open meeting laws in Montana, we need you to identify yourself by both your first and last name on Zoom. And they've done that. Okay, perfect. So with that, we will open up public comment on non-agenda items. If you're online, please raise your hand. Okay. All right. And with that, we will move to Clayton Peacock with Gateway Village. Good evening, Clayton.
You can unmute yourself, Clayton.
Here we go. All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I'll start with Gateway Village. Obviously, as you can see, I'm sure most of you have driven by. We've got a couple buildings up now, which is super exciting. I definitely encourage, anybody that wants to take a look through one of the units or see that at some point to reach out to me. Maybe we'd coordinate something here in the future, kind of show you what we're working with. But as it relates to kind of our schedule and construction process that we're working through, we're looking to get 1 duplex a week from a shipment and get it craned onto the foundation. As far as the work required when it comes on site, we're putting roofs on and starting to get some siding together and trying to dial up the inside and outside. And yeah, it's going to be kind of the program for the next 6 months here, just getting a box a week and having those come online. Hopefully, once we get into the full swing of things, we'll be opening up, a front door a week, sometimes starting late January, early February. We just finished testing all of our fire suppression equipment, got sign off from Jeremiah Hillier, the fire chief in the valley. So we're all good on fire suppression. We just charged up our domestic water system. So we're bringing water to all the houses once they're plumbed up and ready to go. We'll just have to turn them on. That's basically it as far as updates go as it relates to the Gateway Village. I can leave that open for question or any comments and then move on to Gateway Inn, or I could just keep rolling and go through Gateway Inn. You guys let me know.
I have a question about the village. We had discussed a partnership with the school district for units that would be available for the school district employees to rent. When would be a good time to start that conversation now that you're getting them built up? I believe I have one or two employees who might want to take advantage of that and have the conversation about rent cost and that sort of thing.
Certainly. So I think, from the initial onset, we definitely don't want to offer up the initial units until we're done with paving and kind of getting these things fine tuned. We won't have sidewalks in. We're still working on getting mailboxes and so forth. And I did actually mention this to Mike earlier today. Mike Duquesnoy, for those of you who don't know, who's a partner with me on these, working together. He's with Low Mountain Land, and kind of what that timeline expectation looks like. I think he wants to roll these things out over the next 6 months and then kind of commence that conversation prior to the next school year. I don't know how that fits in line with the two employees that you have kind of discussing this at this juncture, but I think that was more so a plan for possibly the next school year as we work through fine tuning and making sure that everything's satisfactory. I mean, we'll have units complete, but as far as the on-site infrastructure per lot, those won't be complete until next spring when we can pave and put in irrigation and make sure that we got our mailboxes in and make sure they have all the data and so forth. So that's going to be a part of this process that takes a little bit longer than the actual installation and finishing of each home, is finalizing the infrastructure that comes along with it, setting up trash and setting up all the random, fine-tune pieces, I suppose. So he was kind of gearing towards, maybe a discussion this summer to talk about the next rollout for school of fall 22.
Okay, great. But you did say that late January, early February, you would be having people move into those units? Open the doors.
Yeah, so the doors, as far as them being complete, yes. As far as how we rent that out, that's certainly not in my department necessarily, but I think what we'd want to do is definitely get the driveways paved and make sure that the essential, infrastructure for safety, human life, we got to make sure that we're done with that and we have all the amenities necessary to move into a home. So definitely a mailbox being one of those. Data, that's fairly easy. We've been working with Montana Opticom, so that should be set. But as far as paving and construction in between, I don't know if you've seen how we've sequenced our homes as of right now, but currently it's every 4 lots we're installing and setting a house. In between those lots, we'll still have an active construction zone with foundations and rebar and open holes. So as far as the rentability, I don't believe that's going to be January, February of this year. That'll be more so once we finish foundations, everything's backfilled, and it's not a hazard to next door neighbors.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out when we might be getting children. So that gives me a better picture. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll definitely pursue that conversation a little bit further with my financial team and our property management team and try and get a better idea of what their rollout looks like. I'm more so focused on finishing up the construction per lot, not necessarily how the rental team rolls out. But I can definitely get you some more information and connect you guys with the right parties when that time comes.
Because as you know, those move-in dates are super important to the school, just in guessing numbers for kids that will be moving in, even though they'll be tenants, they'll still attend school potentially.
Right. And just for my own edification, I know you guys said that you had two 2 potential teachers that we're looking to get in on this list. What is their timeline looking like?
Don't really have one. They're just
Okay, okay,
the opportunity looks like.
absolutely. And we should be getting closer to having a discussion about what rent looks like. I mean, as we fine tune through our construction costs and understanding that, we'll definitely be in a better ballpark than we were before. But not something I'm comfortable sharing just yet until I have, a pretty firm idea of what it's going to be.
Okay.
And then as far as Gateway Village, or Gateway Inn, I'm sure you guys have seen some process over there, and we're moving up to the 2nd level over there on that north building and just about to start framing the south building. That's kind of the main gist of it. We got our slab support and infrastructure pulled into the slab, but it's going to be a lot of framing and going to seem like everything's going fast. And then once the roof's on and we got some windows in, that's when things take a little bit longer with running electrical and plumbing throughout and doing the fine tuning. So we anticipate to start framing that south building before the end of this month. And we're kind of shooting for a 4-week stagger between the 2 buildings, with our completion currently anticipated at November 1st and December 1st of next year.
Great.
So yeah, if anybody wants to come and check out the units, certainly let me know, or go through Teresa and we can schedule, maybe instead of a bunch of little visits, maybe we do one. But we can definitely plan for that sometime in this early to midwinter of 22.
Well, I'll make a confession, Clayton. My husband and I drove by there.
You guys already seen it. Well,
And through the windows, they look really nice.
yeah, they definitely came together really good. I'm impressed with how they traveled and what they're looking like and what they're going to offer the community.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Got a bunch of no head shakes here, Clayton.
No,
so-
thank you, Clayton.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I apologize again. I know I was supposed to make it in tonight, but I don't know if any of you know, but I have a 3-month-old baby now, so she wasn't feeling so well tonight, and I had to come home. So my apologies, but I'm definitely going to come to an in-person meeting here next month is the goal.
Definitely
Congrats.
more important.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I'm learning my ropes as a father here, but yeah, it's been fun.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
Clayton. Have a great
Clayton.
evening.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll move into the consent agenda. May I get a motion on the table?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I second.
We have no classified certified sub additions, even though that's on there. We just leave it on there just in case one pops up.
Question on this warrant list.
The
Oh.
November or December.
November.
Yes.
The last couple sections that are Amazon.com seem to have some miscategorized expenses, like our water bill, bus fuel, DEF for the buses.
Can you tell me which page you're on? 2 of 2?
Pardon me? Let's see. So the first page of all the financial stuff, it's the first and second pages. It's everything under our BMO MasterCard charges.
Oh, so that you're on the credit card
Yeah,
warrants. Okay. Sorry.
Maybe we're buying fuel from Amazon.
and those are some pretty significant charges, so just
That are going to the wrong budget code.
well, they're listed as coming from the vendor of Amazon.com. Like our water bill is actually on here twice.
Well, the bulletin board
That's correct.
is Amazon.
Correct.
I don't believe I don't believe the water bill is part of Amazon.
I think aren't all
It's under
those
the
things,
same
because
code,
the
isn't
vendor is listed underneath. So you have your expenses and then the vendor, for example,
Yes, I see what you're saying. Oh,
And the water bill is also, it's on there twice. So line 5 is the monthly water bill,
Okay.
but that looks like it's for October. But then the November one is miscategorized under Amazon,
I will,
Is
as
this
well
Todd?
as the 142.74, 134.76.
yeah, I have to get with Todd on
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Just get things recategorized.
Well, there's something wrong. So I will get with Todd and we will resubmit that one. So I would just ask that you remove it.
Okay. And then, yeah, it's great to see in December that we have all of our funds here with the percentage of spend down.
Finally.
Yes.
And that honestly has to do with the county and not knowing cash. And we had just gotten our information from
I
the
see a
county.
couple items in regards to refs for our sporting events
Mhm,
where it says canceled game.
mhm.
Are we paying refs when a game is canceled?
Depends on the timeline in which it was canceled.
Okay,
So that there was a night where a game was canceled right at the end because of, was it weather? I think it was because of
You guys
weather.
didn't go
Yeah,
to
there was that one
Livingston.
really snowy.
yeah.
Where they couldn't get through to us from either Bear Canyon or
Mhm.
over at St. Mary's.
Yeah.
They couldn't get to us. And so we had to cancel last minute, but
Okay,
the refs were already on the way.
got it. Okay,
We have to pay them anyway.
yeah, that makes sense then.
And hopefully with girls' basketball, boys' basketball, that schedule is changing like,
All over the place.
we're trying to mitigate some of that up front right now. But coaches and everyone like to change their schedules around a lot. So,
Let's see, we can talk about compensated absences. when we get to that later on in Chinese schools. If these percentages are right, looks like we're doing okay.
yeah, we're doing really well. I was pleased with our numbers. Transportation's a little bit high and yeah. But I found why it's high and have
Addressing that.
addressed that. General's a little high for my tastes. I would like it a little closer, like 35% right now. But we've purchased, we purchased that new sound system. That was an unanticipated purchase and getting, we got a bunch of stuff for the math teachers, graphing notebooks and things like that, that were not a part of the supply list because they've been working really hard on aligning what the expectations are for kids from 3rd grade through 8th grade. So it's a little higher. And that's
Related,
part of
but
my
not
superintendent
directly
report.
associated with this, but I have not looked at the gift tree. Or
The giving tree?
yeah, but I remember in the past, there was an issue or a concern question that came up that the items on there are items that teachers are asking for.
For their classrooms.
Correct. But that they're not asking the board for, so that it might be giving the community the impression that teachers aren't being supplied with what they need.
Oh,
Do you remember this conversation a few years ago?
Yeah,
I do.
and so my impression, and you might go look at the tree.
Like I said, I did not look at it this year, so.
I think it's pretty well known that teachers come and ask, and there are things that that I am going to say no to. A lot of it had to do with differentiated seating, that
Okay.
it willing
that on the
to,
gift tree?
there may be some
Okay.
different kinds of seatings that, you know, I'm not willing to spend the money on
Mhm.
just because unless there's some sort of 504 IEP involved.
Right.
I'm not sure that's teaching our kids how to be resilient in a regular school setting, like at the high school. My impression from what I hear teachers are asking for are what I would consider fluffy things in the classroom, bulletin board borders and things like that, not full-on instructional materials.
Okay.
But if there are things on there, because I haven't really looked at it myself, I really probably should to make sure if there are things we can purchase for them, we can purchase for them. I've been really upfront with our teachers, then go ahead and order it.
Mhm.
We just had that conversation about there's a really great speech to text program, and we've really struggled with speech to text for some of our accommodations, both in RTI and 504. And we are, and they were not sure. The teachers who had gone to the training were like, "Ooh, should we get it?" I was like, we absolutely should. If it's better than what we're using, because what we're using is cumbersome and kids won't use it, and it's hard. And this is what's being recommended. So we try to have those conversations.
Yeah, I have not heard anything.
I haven't either. I don't know what's on there.
So I just
honestly.
wanted to bring that to your attention.
think-
So it didn't like. if
So
something
Alex
did happen-
Davis, I think on there is hay for the bunny for Ozzy, and there's stuff like that.
Okay,
Um,
because I know previously,
can-
like, we
we
would
can
have
make it
broken headphones and
Yeah,
stuff.
ditto.
What?
We could give her a
Just to give
bail.
a bail.
It has to be,
Certain type.
it is a
Alfalfa.
certain type,
I'll check. I should
not
check it.
alfalfa.
Oh.
It's
Timothy.
Timothy grass.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
it's very specific.
Gotcha.
Learned a lot about rabbits.
In the
Anyway.
past, I think our staff didn't necessarily, like, at the end of the year, they would put forth their wish list and they wouldn't necessarily ask. for
Now
things. But I think we've gotten
they
past
get
that.
pretty much everything they asked for, they did this past year, except for some of that flexible seating. So
I mean, we've disposed of a lot of trash.
we still have a lot. I
Reasonable.
was in the basement this week.
Okay. Excellent. Well, with that, all of those in favor of the consent agenda?
Did you want to ask for?
Public comment on, yes, thank you.
So there's still only one public.
There are two.
Oh, okay.
There are two public.
Who do we have out
Any
there?
public
We've got
comment?
Leslie and Misty Richardson.
With that?
So it's kind of short, I guess, because of the short passing between the two holidays. We a couple of big things. We got progress reports out to every kid this time. So that was, first quarter, we didn't get progress reports out because of Infinite Campus, the difficulties we were having with standard spaced report cards in K through 2. We got them out this past weekend, so people should be getting them in the mail. So that's pretty exciting. Try to work weekly with our 3 through 8 math teachers, kind of what we talked about. We've talked about note taking and what it looks like in 3rd grade through 8th grade to prepare kids for how to take math notes when they hit the high school. And most recently, we have been talking about students who are behind due to attendance. And it's attendance either because of quarantine or because we're asking parents to keep their kids home when they're sick. And, we've had a lot of strep. We've had sinus infections wherever you look. We've had colds, all kinds of kids out sick, and they, we ask them, don't send them back unless they're symptom free. And so that has had a toll on attendance, which of course affects student success. And so coming up with plans for specific kids, opportunities for kids to make up their work, after school, teachers inviting kids in, hey, come in, let's work on this, that, or the other thing. And then me communicating with families where it really isn't because of illness, it's just other things, and having to have the conversation about the laws about attendance in the state of Montana. And I think what's interesting, our student handbook and our policy is pretty vague about attendance in terms of how many absences a student can have before it becomes a truancy issue. It's really up to school, me. And so just having those conversations in our weekly PLCs. Our K through 3 ELA teachers are still working with that consultant out of Texas. And I think if you ask them about it, they would tell you it's been incredibly valuable. They are getting really good at guided reading and running records to be able to measure where kids are and pushing kids forward in terms of their level of reading in a way that they hadn't been trained before. Like they will tell you, we didn't have the training. Now they have the training, and now they're having conversations like, okay, while we have these kids in guided reading, what kinds of focused activities can all the other kids be doing instead of just independent reading? Can there be stations of rigorous activities where kids do independently, working on their
just
independent reading? But if you're a kindergartner, what does that look like? Pretending, or just having really good stations for kids to work at that focuses on those areas of need to improve their reading skills. So it's great. Ashley Davis and Alex Davis have been working with Jenny Combs with ACE, with the ACE consortium, and they have been talking about standards-based assessments. They've been aligning their new, because they have the sample copies of their new curriculum, so aligning their curriculum with the ACE pacing guides and all of that. And so that's been really great. And then most recently planning for Thursday's Christmas programs. Yeah, I think Montana Children's Theater was a grand success with Johnny Appleseed. Oh my gosh, the kids were just so excited about it, and just the turnout of kids who wanted to be a part of it was really enthusiastic. It was girl heavy because our boys were playing basketball. We're hoping in the spring it will be boy heavy because our girls will be playing basketball, because we are doing MCT in the spring as well.
And that was February, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something new that's on our calendar, myself, Rochelle Dierenfeld, Ms. Downs, our co-op specialists, and Michelle Halberg meet monthly to talk about our RTI program, to give them kind of a forward look at if there's a kid who could possibly end up down the road through RTI in special education. The co-op is being audited this year. And so they are hyper aware of making sure all of our ducks are in a row. And in many of the conversations, there's just a lot of general, everyone needs to do this. And then when I speak with Michelle or our own co-op folks, are we not doing these things that you're putting out there that needs to be done? And the answer every single time is no, we are doing things very, very well here. And Maddie Downs does an excellent job of managing her cases, her timelines, her folders, all of the paperwork minutia is excellent. And our RTI process is right where it needs to be. So that's nice to hear.
Who does that
Audit.
audit? Is it OPI?
Yes,
Okay.
And what does the audit look like? Is it actually in school and going, hey, are
They-
these, like, does it grab a handful of individual kids and say, are these goals being met, or like? what
they
does the audit
actually,
look like?
on the school level, if they come to the campus, they will just ask for their folders.
Okay.
To see if, because it's all about the timelines, and it's all about, it's not, are they meeting their goals or not? It's, are we meeting all the legal timelines?
That are set up in the IEPs. Okay.
Yes, and are we holding our meetings? Are we doing prior written notice correctly, which is the area of the IEP that shows that what we offered as a school district, what the parent has responded with, and if we came to agreement on that. And so all of that prior written notice, any conversations we had ahead of time go into prior written notice in the IEP, and and so they grab our folders. Now at the co-op, they're looking at everything from financials to, they're looking at all of it on their end, whether or not they're following the law.
Sure.
What level of support are we receiving from the co-op versus what your expectations are? Or our needs are?
Currently, we are getting the support that we need. There's always a question about how much support the school psych provides. And that is a conversation we are always visiting during that monthly meeting. Because they want to be involved in our tier 3 RTI meetings. And so we always set them to when our psych is supposed to be available for us. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. And then when we want to refer, they want to have another pre-referral meeting. We're like, well, we already did it and here's all of our data. And so that is still an area that we're working on. But the students that we have referred through our RTI program to be assessed in special ed, it's happening in a timely manner, which is what I really care about right now. So, but it's an ongoing conversation. I put on there that 3rd graders got dictionaries from the Rotary Club. That was supposed to be today. The person from the Rotary Club, there was a mix-up on their end, and so it's going to be on another day. We have not actually received those dictionaries yet, but we will be. And then if you had had the opportunity to watch the Montana Tribes presentation, be present, because we didn't Zoom it or anything. We switched from 3rd grade to 5th grade for the Montana Tribes presentation. It has always been a 3rd grade presentation, and the teachers had made the request to switch it to 5th grade. It aligns better with our social studies curriculum and all kinds of things. And I just thought they were outstanding.
So that's a long-term.
It's a much
That is a
better year to
long-term
do that.
switch.
I didn't know if it
For
was due to 3rd grade
comprehension and
missing.
just,
No. It is
study
a
and all that.
long-term switch because
They don't.
the research that it
different service.
takes,
Yeah.
do the research.
the 3rd
Yeah.
graders, while they do their best, it tends to be very surface.
Right.
And I really thought our
Yeah.
5th graders had some good depth to their presentations, and
That was smart to change that.
it really fits in well. So our 3rd graders are the ones doing the bronze from now on, because we bring in, researching an animal is a lot easier than researching a tribe and comparing and contrasting past, present,
It's much more
future,
age appropriate.
all of
too.
those things. And
Yeah.
so I thought it was I think their suggestion was a good one. It turned out, so far, turned out pretty good. We've had a huge amount of volunteers coming in. Brad Parsh is putting a proposal together for me to do just permanent after-school tutoring for a select group of kids He's very concerned with our number sense, our multiplication tables, that sort of thing. I said, you and me both. It is one of the gaps in our math that is still plaguing. You can see it in our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. It is a huge part of our current curriculum, but he sees it in our, 5, 6, 7, 8 when he comes and he works in growing gators. And he's like, I want to do something. I said, well, put me together a proposal. So he's going to start working with some kids just on number sense and getting them, because, I think there was a time when memorizing your math facts, add, subtract, multiply, divide, 0 to 9, 0 to 10 without thought. I think there was a time when that was not encouraged. And I'm a person who believes that that's a life skill and makes your life a whole lot easier if you can just come up with those numbers off the top of your head instead of having to go search for your calculator. And it helps be able to problem solve with your mind estimating. So just have had a lot of help in, and we welcome more helpers. If you got to see on the news, Audrey Kimmel and Jamie Hetherington were on the news, and because her project from I can't think of the name of it, what it's called at the end of the school year that Jamie does with
They're genius.
Genius Hour. Thank you. Whew, was gone for a second. Her Genius Hour project from last year, where she created the recipe, the cookbook, cookbook with the recipes and everything. And she took donations and sold them and everything. She donated $500 towards our book vending machine.
That's great.
Yes, and so that was really great. It's nice when graduated Gators come back and give back to their school. Today I met with the YMCA about later Gators. If you remember, the YMCA are the ones who Bobby Joe won her football tickets from. They had put out Bronco tickets, nominate who you want, and they just got an overwhelming number of nominations from our school for Bobby Joe, and that's how she won the tickets. Well, they came out on the Monday that Bobby Joe was traveling back after Thanksgiving, traveling back from Denver from the game, and they're the ones who put together all the sandwiches and lunches for the kids, probably 10 or 11 volunteers from the YMCA, which was spectacular. Well, from that, they realized that we didn't have an after-school program in YMCA. That's one of their things, is after-school programs. And so I sat down and met with them and told them where we were. We're still in a partnership with the United Way. Our current memorandum of agreement doesn't stand because it's different, because they've put all the management and the finances back on the school district. But we just really can't find anybody, so we haven't taken anything new to the board, and we're sort of in a holding pattern with later Gators. They talked to me about what it has traditionally looked like, and they are committed to putting a program on our school, in our school, that's a YMCA program, because I told them, I said, I really don't want to manage this program. I was real honest about it. I said, I don't want to manage the finances. I said, I think our school district is dedicated to financial help in regards to that program. Things like the snacks after school. I said, we've already got the Chromebooks, got the curriculum. It's turnkey. We need a body. We need 2 bodies. And
That's great.
and they are shooting for a second semester start date. So that would be after the 22nd of January. So that's what they're hoping for. They have to go back to their board, put together a proposal. They said, how much did you charge your kids? And I said, well, the last year that we had it, it was just $25 a week? No, $25 a family. Are you kidding? They were blown away. And I said, that's because we had Donna
We had
Shockley
good support. Yeah.
do huge fundraising and grants and got money to do this.
And United Way helped.
They want
did.
about 20, they want 24 or more kids participating. I said, I think we can get you that, just knowing the number of turnkey kids we have who are getting off of a bus.
There's more and more younger kids that, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously time has created momentum. We've had a gap in time, but
Right,
it
and
did create momentum.
I just know we have kids who are going home to empty homes right now. They get off the bus, littles get off the bus. And because parents can't be there, it's
Mhm.
not their, they're doing the best they can.
Mhm.
They would leave their kids here. Some of them leave them here till that very last minute of learning lab. And when we had the book club and the tech club, we had kids at that, but it didn't last long enough. When book club was lasting till 5, we had more kids in book club than tech club because tech club only lasted till 4:30. It's easier for parents to pick
Popularity
them
is
up.
to stay longer.
Right, well, because it's easier, a parent gets off work, it's easier to pick them up at 5 than it is to leave work early and come at 4:30 and pick them up. And so we had all of that conversation. I'm very encouraged. They also work with the United Way, so the funds that are with the United Way right now, because they have our funds that Donna had raised, we can work on getting over to YMCA because United Way, as great of an organization as it is, they're like everyone else, so short-staffed.
Mhm.
That's why they couldn't run our program anymore.
Mhm.
So had our CPR classes last week.
What do we have for attendance on it?
Well, we actually only had 2 staff members that needed it. And we also had the co-op enrolled 3 people, but only 1 actually showed up. So we offered that class to their folks as well.
Nice.
Facilities, Bobby Joe called a plumber to get all of our soaps. We had switched. She was ordering her soaps and disinfectants and things through her vendors. And the House of Clean that does all of our towels and linens, and they provide the major parts of the school with all of our cleaners and disinfectants. They gave her a quote. It was much less than what she was spending through the vendors. And but in order to use their products, you have to have a thing with the push button that,
The Eco
did-
Lab stuff.
yes. And so I believe she got all that hooked up today, hopefully. I
Wow.
have to touch base with her.
And those hookups are just part of your purchase price on those things,
Mhm.
right?
It's the plumber that we're gonna get charged for having the plumbing hooked up,
Mhm.
but
The water mix or
Yeah.
whatever.
we did get All City Trucking for our plowing services,
Mm.
and and that one snow we had,
You were here?
Where are they? Are they out of Bozeman?
Belgrade.
Okay.
Sweet.
Don't have anything under leadership, communication, collaboration. Probably should. It's not that I'm not doing it. Just couldn't think of anything specific. And then safety, tonight I was supposed to give you guys the safety walkthrough, the completed safety walkthrough, which we completed. I just haven't typed it up, and I apologize for that. Transportation report is attached. The biggest change is that worked with Mr. Lee in regards to how many hours he's working, because we know that the route is a little longer. It has been, since I got here, communicated to me that our bus drivers are supposed to work 4 hours. That's their contract, 4 hours a day. That's not true. Their contract is a 40-hour work week. But it was, communicated to them, this is where you need to keep your hours. Looking at historical, that was not happening with him or Cheryl in terms of numbers. And so, and then with Mr. Lee now being the sole bus driver, I was really looking at the numbers to see where our budget stood with transportation. And so he gave me reports of what he was working. I looked at his time card. He was also helping out in the cafeteria. And so we had to budget, we had to move some of what we were paying him for out of food service. So we shifted some of that. And gave him some new parameters that I've put in writing. He still has the same contract. His average per week is 5 hours per day per week. There will be times where he will be over that because of weather. And there are times when he's under that because there are certain kids who don't always ride the bus, so he doesn't have to go all the way up certain roads and things like that. And then 3.5 hours per month for maintenance, for bus maintenance and the things, and worked with him on that, you know, how long does it take to fuel the bus and how often, you know, he's driving the spare bus once a week for 30 minutes. So that's included in maintenance. And when he has to go get DEF and top off the DEF, how often does that happen? And so we got an average. And then if his time card goes over those averages, he'll indicate in his time card what it was that changed that, just to try to tighten up our transportation finances a little bit and get a better picture. He isn't working. I've asked him to stop working in the cafeteria. We have a volunteer right now who's been working with Bobby Joe, and she's actually trying on the job before for both of them. They're both trying each other on. And so if it works out, you'll see her name in the January packet as a assistant cook hire, if it works out for both of them. So, but she does have help full-time, like the same amount of time an assistant cook would work. She's volunteering that whole amount of time,
Oh, that's great.
getting trained, all of that, trying it on, which I think is spectacular. Yeah, any questions about transportation or food service? The summaries, so there's the transportation summary.
I shouldn't say, have we seen a drop off with the length of the bus
You
route, in
mean in terms of time?
terms of number of kids riding the
Riders.
bus?
No, it's about
Okay.
the same. I suspect if we start later gators, I suspect quite a few
Will drop.
in the PM.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think?
I would say
a third,
ridership
half.
is up almost
Up
from
almost.
numbers we've seen
Really?
Mhm.
Great.
in the last couple of years.
We got a lot of kids riding the bus.
New route actually has better times for us.
Not for
It has
us.
better
My kids
times for
aren't
you,
riding, but
worse
we're
times
lucky.
for others.
Yes.
So
Oh, you don't hear it the same.
the combined
Okay,
route, like you
okay.
can see, the average number of riders is up in the, you know, it's at 22 in the afternoon. I think that would reduce. And, you know, between the previous north-south route, you're looking at 26 kids, so it is lower, but I think if we had later gators, our PM numbers would drop, just because I believe we have a lot of kids going home to a empty household, which I don't like.
No.
And I know their parents don't either, you know, nobody wants to do that, but you do what you have to do.
To survive.
Yeah, and then food service summary, we're in real good shape with food service. It will help when I don't have to pay Bobby Joe overtime. You know? As much as I'm sure she likes the overtime, it's also a lot, you know, she's doing a lot.
How much overtime would you say she's averaging?
You know, I can get back with you, not a lot, Like she's real frugal with how
Mhm.
she uses her time. And the specific kinds of foods that she's been serving. There's a lot of,
New thought that's gone into that.
right, to cut down her
Prep
time.
time.
Right, so if we get an assistant cook, some of the old favorites will come back because they can actually cook more
Mhm.
and she'll still be able to stay in her timeline, so.
Bobby Joe strikes me as somebody who's extremely efficient.
She's incredibly efficient and very, very,
Agreed.
you
Doesn't
know,
like mess around.
I guarantee you, she's not putting all her hours on her time card.
And that's what I was actually gonna ask that. I was like,
And
make sure
I
she's
c-
clocking all of. her
I'm
hours.
a nag about it, you know, because I want her to clock her hours.
Yes.
Sure.
But she's just a giving soul, and so if I look at a day and I think, wait a minute, I know you were here later, I'll bring it up, but
So I think it's important for her to know that we appreciate that sentiment tremendously. Not only is it used to pay her accurately, but also when you're looking at any kind of business, and the school is a business, it's used for planning purposes and whatnot, right?
yes.
So it
good
justifies
point.
that second position. Don't just give that up just out of altruism.
Yes.
Good point.
I think she just wants
I know,
to save money for the school,
I
and,
get it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
and sometimes I'm a real nag on her about that, because, you know, people need to be compensated for what they do
100%.
correctly.
Teresa, to circle back to the social studies curriculum, when will we see that implemented in the classrooms
It's ordered,
across the board?
it's ordered.
So just,
When it comes in, I'm hoping it'll come in over the break,
okay.
so that January 3rd PIR day,
Mhm.
when everybody comes back, they will have a chance, we'll have it inventoried. Erica's working some over the break, and I'm hoping that stuff will come in and it can get inventoried and they can get it in their hands and start using it. They are already in 3 through 8, they are already using it from their samples.
Okay.
K through 3 obviously is not, because they didn't have one of every grade level, or K through 2, one of every grade level, but 3 through 8, they have one of all the different samples, and so they're using it. But as soon as we get it in, and as soon as they have time to, you know, when you get all that stuff in, it can be overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah, how much prep time do they need to get started on it?
Yeah,
And does it need to be, you know, a PIR in order to get going on it?
right. And we have days in in our PDAC summary. There are open Wednesdays that we have not scheduled, that we left in there for things to come, you know, if things come up. And so I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping we can do it on the 3rd when they have a full day to get their curriculum together, but you never know about that. I think Ashley Davis is online, so, but yeah, it's not in yet. It's like, come on. Something like new curriculum materials. It's very exciting. And then I think
COVID.
our enrollment summary, we just started a new 6th grader yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Today, not yesterday, was Sunday, today. Just started a new 6th grade
This just
girl,
felt like
so that's
2
pretty
days.
exciting.
A
Because
move in from out of area or an out of district or?
homeschool,
Oh, good.
and you know, this was the grade level, this 6th grade. Last year, there were 3 girls in the 5th grade, you know.
Oh, now we have 6.
So now it's getting a little more even, so the dynamic of the class isn't quite so interesting.
Does
Um,
this reflect the addition of
Mhm.
her? It
Yeah.
does. Yes, okay.
Yes. we lost. It looks the same because we also lost a
So do we have
student.
15 or do we have 16 students?
Oh, I didn't update that.
Okay,
You're right. Yes, it should auto add, but I was doing this by hand on here, so.
just checking your math.
No, it's 16. My math is clearly, I need Mr. Parsh's number sense class. I think what's interesting on the enrollment piece is that it seems like we're getting more local move-ins. And after our conversation with Clayton at the last board meeting and the one we just had, I feel like the predictions that I had made way back when about, because it was hard to predict because we didn't know what kinds of folks. It seems to be more of a normal type subdivision. So we'll have a better prediction of numbers of kids per door and that sort of thing. Because if you recall back in November, Clayton talked about they really don't have a hierarchy of how they're going to
Right.
let them out and that sort of thing. I'm still getting that I'm inferring that from the things that he's saying. And so I think it'll be a little more predictable, like a normal valley subdivision.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because he also said it was gonna be more open to the public than what we
Yes.
were.
Than
originally
what I
thinking.
had.
Said that, but then
That's,
But then he
I
backed
actually
off a little
reached out
bit.
to them. So here, I'll read you guys what he had responded on that. I have one from him and one from Mike. So first Mike replied and he said, "Hello, Carissa, we're probably a year away from any discussions on the for sale product." Because obviously many buyers just waiting like piranhas to buy something like that. So ultimately our goal is to get 4 rent products in place, then move them from the single family portion of the project. We definitely understand there's a serious pent up demand for this type of offering, and we will need to navigate, strategize how that gets rolled out when the time comes. We have many middle managers in our collective entities that are in need of housing, and we are not 100% committed to the for sale model yet. Thanks for reaching out. More to come in 2022. And then Clayton said, "Thanks for your email in regards to the for sale product with Gateway Village. As for the additional information, we are not quite there yet. With the product development, the current plan is to have 65 single family homes that will go up for sale in the future phases, but we have not finalized the design pricing structure for these units. We plan to have the units surrounded with main park and line the back row of the subdivision. They will have identical lot sizes to the duplex units, which are 6,000 square feet. Unfortunately, I don't have much more information to share at this moment, but we look to work through the models for single family homes over the next year, at which point we will have a better understanding of the specific details and when they will become available. If you haven't heard any details on the for sale product in the next 12 months, please be sure to reach out." So, yeah, that's where that's at. I don't foresee for sale product, but we'll see.
And if it is just rent, that will impact our enrollment.
It
What do
will.
you mean for sale
Consistency.
product to the general
Right.
public?
Yeah.
versus-
Well,
There'll be for
numbers
sale
of people.
product,
just
I
numbers
don't
of
think
people
even for
and
sale product to their
consistency.
own employees. I
The
think
middle
they,
managers that he's referring
no,
to?
I think that they'll still keep those as rental options. Just watching development over time, the second they sell those and people can make equity of say $100,000 in 1 year's time, they immediately sell them and move out of area, which keeps them not where they want them for employment purposes.
Right,
Yeah,
but
So
even
they
the
said it was
rentals
for
make it,
they did.
make enrollment do this
Mhm.
because of mobility. It changes your
Mhm.
mobility rate.
Yes,
So
it'll be interesting to see what
it will be
happens, but
very
I-
interesting, but I think it's not all their employees. I think it's going to be far more open to the general
Mhm.
public than what they first had envisioned is my.
We'll just have to
Well, and
wait
it's
and
funny
see.
having
prediction.
toured the club stuff. I mean, they're doing not only this here, there's a bunch
All
of
over Big
projects up
Sky.
in Big Sky too. And they're leasing them out to business owners up there where say you can, but the business owners have to manage their leases then. So it's actually a lease under that business for a year. and they manage their employees coming and going. So they could be doing that sort of structure here too. You never know where they're gonna head with it, you know.
Just to support the housing need for all of those
Yeah,
other businesses.
For
that
every
support.
business up
Mhm.
there.
It's
Yeah, they're
crazy.
all in desperation.
Bedroom
And that's been
community.
that way. Honestly, like I used to manage a hotel up there 20 years ago and it was the same way then. Housing was, I don't know if it was worse or better. I think it's gotten worse, but it was bad then.
All right.
Side note.
Any more questions on superintendent report?
Nope.
No, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Move into COVID.
Good.
Like those.
COVID report is good.
It is looking really good.
Feeling,
That was good use of.
Knock on wood.
It's not as bad as it was.
yeah, we,
The
you know,
variant
we're
isn't as
getting,
bad as we're thinking it is. It's good news. The Omicron variant isn't as bad as they think it is.
well,
They
and
said the
if you,
booster is completely protect you from it, is what this, all the research is looking, so that's good.
yeah, and if you look at overall in the county, the numbers have been declining pretty steadily.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm, you know, if I can get through the next 4 days, then December will be at 0. But got a lot of strep, got a lot of colds, got a lot of sinus infections. A lot of the, you know, haven't had any diagnosed flu that we're aware of. And yeah, the nurse is still looking for a good vendor for the take-home tests for our staff and whatnot as part of that grant. And in January, we should have calendars. And you should have hires in front of you for those, for the 2 nurses who will be testing when the nurse is not here.
Assisting with the test days.
Mhm.
Can we do Amazon take-home tests? Like we have ordered those personally at home and keep them.
There's like a certain list of
Uh,
types, and it's not because of lack of ability. I think it's really she's trying to get the most of what has the most effect. And
We did the same one that the Yellowstone Club is doing, only because Eric has to test there constantly, so we just bought that same one.
yeah, and I've really kind of put it in her hands to get those. And totally unrelated, this will be our last year with this particular nurse. She got her, she's finishing up her degree and is moving on to another phase of her life. She let me know that she won't be being a school nurse anymore, and so we are going to be looking for a school nurse.
Add that to the list. Oh, Mary, let's be hopeful.
That's it. All right. Any questions?
No, thank you.
New business discussion item, compensated absences for certified classifieds.
Did I put something in there on this?
I didn't see it.
didn't see anything in the packet.
So the question was, that was posed was, you know, if you went back and you looked at our budget versus actual, which is up on the screen. Down here, it's like, oh, everything's looking really, really well. And then bam, 91% of our compensated absences liability fund got spent. And that was when Carrie left because
Oh,
she
you had to pay her
had,
out.
we had to pay her out, right?
Gotcha.
And so compensated absences for full-time employees, that is our classifieds, and Carrie or the district clerk and Erica are included in that. I used to be, but the only compensated absences that I roll over as superintendent is my sick leave. I get to accumulate my sick leave, but all of my vacation, I get paid out every year. Our certified teachers are able to accrue up to 80 days. And every year, if they hit the 80, they get paid out to keep it at a certain level. We typically keep our compensated absences at the maximum allowed by the state of Montana, just because that can be a real kicker. You have a long-term employee like Carrie who leaves. If we had not kept this at the level it was at, we would have hit our general fund with what we paid her. As it is, we still have money left in that fund. And in June, we'll probably do an amendment so that you guys take money out of the interlocal agreement to put into the compensated absences fund to beef it back up. Doesn't have to be as large because our liability isn't large. We don't, we've got a few certified employees who've been here a really long time. Very few of our classifieds and myself, have been here as long as Carrie had been here, the 19 years. So we're in a safe place in terms of the fund.
We have places to take.
To
from.
get the money
Right.
right. So
Does the compensated absences fund, does that include certified? I thought it was for just classified.
it's, and I thought I had the spreadsheet up here and I don't.
I remember,
It
think it's
is
just
only
classified.
classified. Only classified administration,
yes,
but that's
you're-
it. Like, so my position,
Erica,
Erica, Carrie, and my paras, Bobby Joe. It includes them, so,
I just wanted to make sure.
yeah.
Because we had certified and classified here.
Where do the teachers? Stupid question. Where does the liability come from for the teachers then?
General fund.
General
Okay.
fund.
And that is negotiated through the master agreement.
Gotcha.
And then retirement fund, if a teacher retires.
That comes out of that retirement fund.
Comes out of 114.
Right. Okay.
But that's something that we probably with certified want to be keeping on our radar because we do have a handful of certified employees who are nearing the potential.
They've
of
got big years. Yeah.
retirement. And
Mhm.
just when we're working on our budget.
I'm trying to think.
A couple, 2, 3, right? 2.
I think the closest is 6 or 7 years out.
Oh,
of
Or are they that
retirement.
far out still?
Yeah,
I thought they were closer than that.
no,
Just kids.
right, and I mean, that's just retirement in terms of,
When they're.
Yeah,
available.
eligible.
well, in Montana, you're available at 5 years, but they, you want to get your highest salary, so the longer you work, the higher your
Mhm.
salary is. It just, when I saw this report, I choked. I was like,
Mhm.
91%. Darn you, Carrie.
$74.
Perfect.
I haven't seen that number in a long time.
Yeah, and I think what's really great is, we'll have money in miscellaneous. The money from Cross Harbor is in miscellaneous right now, that in the end will go over into that interlocal agreement. But if we run into trouble, we've got that money. We've also got interlocal agreement money. We have quite a few areas of cushion for any kind of weird personnel emergency.
All right. Action items, excess items to be disposed of.
Ooh, canvas walls.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a staff member who wants them.
So the canvas wall tents and the outdoor standing propane heaters and the file cabinet are what we are accessing. The canvas wall tents were purchased using ESSER funds. And so there are some rules that we have to follow in terms of how we dispose of them. We can't auction them off, and we can't outright sell them. And so I have to come up with a way to dispose of them with the understanding that they are no longer usable for our school district. That's how we have to code them in order to get rid of them, because they're purchased with federal funds.
And why do you want to get rid of them?
Yeah, are they not okay to keep for events and things like that
We
potentially?
could even donate
are.
them to the community if we need them, something that might be happening to the community. center.
We absolutely can keep them. We just,
Yeah, I don't know that we need to get rid of them.
so,
Do they take a lot of space?
no, they're in bags. I just know they're in rough shape. I mean, they're still usable, but they took it.
They were out there a long time, weren't they?
Yeah, one of the reasons we took them down is we didn't think they'd survive another winter. You know, some of the poles look like this, and
Because they're aluminum.
I mean, they, considering what we spent on them and considering what they went through and how we, you know, it's like we didn't clear the snow off of them as often as we should have, and hence the load.
What are our options?
Once they're disposed of, we can put them out on a first come, first serve if we wanted to put them out to the community. If you guys want to keep them for people in the community to want to use or borrow, we can do that. It's really up to you all. We don't even have to dispose of them. We just, I'm tired of y'all getting a ginormous list at the end of the school year.
Well, I
We're
think
trying to
with
keep
the,
our closets clean.
I think with the propane heaters, because they're very
Well, I have a
useful.
whole nother,
Oh,
plan
I was
for
gonna
those.
say, with the canvas wall tents, I would keep them just for a year and see, and ask the community if anybody wants to use them, and if we don't get any interest, then we can revisit,
Yeah, use
my
them, even rent
recommendation.
them.
right? Or just give them
As a,
for, it's the community service, okay?
yeah,
I don't know what you guys think of that, but for a year, just to see if we have any interest.
so not access them. Is that, so whenever you make a motion, exclude those from your motion.
okay.
The outdoor standing propane heaters, I would like to raffle off to our teachers. And by raffle, I mean they're turning in videos of their children singing Christmas songs, and every time they do one, they get an entry into the raffle. And we also have 2 in-box propane heaters in our basement collecting mold. And that were never, they were sent to us by the same company, and they didn't want them back, and they were never inventoried. So there's actually 4 that I have a lot of great interest by our staff.
Okay.
And that's who I'd like to make them available to. So that's
Okay.
what I'm doing with the propane heaters. And they are damaged. The latest damage came from the helicopters. The helicopter that
When they
landed in
came
the
over
back,
that evening.
knocked them over, bent them up. Jeremiah and his crew put them back together, and you
Oh,
know,
boy.
so.
Did you guys go check out the helicopter that landed?
It was
Well, it
huge.
was,
Did
it
last
was
year
here.
too, didn't they?
It was awesome.
It was a, during
It
our
was-
board
I-
meeting, wasn't it?
They've
Yeah.
done it before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but this
but it
was
was
a
a-
new helicopter.
It was huge.
No, I didn't get to see it. Heard it.
Normally they had the red and black one.
This was, it sounded big. when
It
was
was,
landing.
This is from Billings Clinic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a helicopter.
And then that file cabinet has been sitting in our lobby for 3 years since I've been here and has never been used or
You think it's
wanted.
time?
I think so. I think it's time to get it out. And
It's hard to
so
say
that's
goodbye.
probably one of those things that we just put out there. Anybody wants the file
Take
cabinet,
if
come
you
get
want.
it.
Please.
You
Please
transport
take
it.
Oh,
Well,
you probably need that.
Actually, I might need a file.
that's what we did with
For
the
your board meeting
refrigerator.
notes.
I know. For my schoolwork.
Yeah, you're welcome to it. It's just
I'll
been
let you
sitting
put it
there.
out, and then if I see it and I have a truck, I'll.
No, really. Just get it out of our lobby. 'Cause it's
Is
just,
this a 4-drawer high one?
yeah, one of those
Okay.
metal ones,
Maybe
you
I'll
know,
just
and
come by tomorrow when I
like,
come by for the gift.
I don't know,
I'll help
2
you
years
load it.
ago or the beginning of last year,
I'm super
I went
strong.
looking through it and there
I
were
bet you are.
like old snacks in it that used to be a part of that red snack
Oh, yeah, the snack.
cart.
They're interesting. isn't
And from my
it?
first year here, so it had to be been last year. So we got rid of all of that out of there, but literally it's never not been used. Nobody uses it. So we're accessing that and then
Me too.
gonna take a look. That's this time and then future excess items. You know, just going down into the basement and looking at some of the stuff down there and just don't really have any use for most of what's down there. We have those cabinets, those really, really, really nice. They're supposed to be cabinets for servers, for computer
Metal
servers.
ones.
Oh, yeah, that is nice.
And I'd like to get them up and either put them all the way upstairs in the closet where we keep technology stuff, or actually put our servers in them,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
instead of just out.
It's a great idea.
But that just takes time to go down, get stuff out of them. The stuff that's in them, we can pull up really easily because they've been enclosed in those cabinets. But the actual cabinets themselves, I think, will be a lot to bring up. And so people are gonna need to want to risk their lungs to go down there.
Mask up. Suit
Yeah.
up.
I was down there this weekend pulling up the stairs for the stage, the archery curtain, and couldn't find the skirt for the stage, so I don't know if they found that today or not upstairs, but just looking around and done a really good job of little by little, I've been bringing stuff up,
Mhm.
but there's still just so much furniture down there. Like, so much furniture. We can put furniture in a whole nother school if we wanted to. We have so much furniture down there. So,
All right. May I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the excess items and items to dispose of excluding Kansas bulletins.
Well, second.
Board discussion? Public comment? Nothing? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it passes unanimously.
Thank goodness they're going to DC.
Next up, discussion or action item, excuse me, about 8th grade spring trip.
I know I sent you guys information this morning. It was a little late. Sorry about that. And so I'll kind of go through it. The dates for the trip, I am making the recommendation for them to go to Washington DC. Some of the things that were required for my recommendation was to have a consensus of parents, not a majority. We talked about, 51% of the parents versus almost all of them, if not all of them. And then talking about the COVID considerations. Ashley Davis has done a really great job of having parent meetings. She's had 2, sought parent feedback, put out that information via email. The biggest concern is that all the requirements are constantly changing about how to travel. Just this past week, last week, they just updated Washington DC into a much more open place to visit. The mask requirements are lifted with the exception, like if you're a private business and you want to require masks, you can do that. The federal buildings still require masks, but it's just much more open, so a lot more venues are open now. They still are requiring students and staff, anyone who's student, staff, chaperones, who's going to Washington DC, you have to prove that you're either vaccinated, that you had COVID within the last 90 days, or that you've tested negative within 3 days prior to your trip. Because we have a nurse who can test and everything, we don't think that's going to be an issue about them getting there. The biggest question is what happens if someone gets sick over there and has to be isolated, quarantined, whatever. And so that is one of the ongoing conversations amongst the parents, coming up with a real plan. An idea that I've been floating out there is having one of the chaperones be, this is not the right term, but like a COVID nanny, where we pay for their trip, and in exchange, if somebody gets sick, they are required to stay with that person, whether it's a student or an adult. The parents, when we had the conversation with parents, most of the parents were like, yeah, we'll go to DC for our kid and stay with them and all of that. I think a short-term plane ticket is really cost prohibitive for parents and that sort of thing. So we're trying to think kind of outside of the box on how we would address if that situation occurred. Also looking into what their quarantine requirements are, because things like that always change all the way up to the moment that they go. Because it's, we're going standard operating for DC, it's going to be 4 in a room. So if one in that room is COVID positive, all 4 of those people could potentially have to quarantine. And so are parents willing to pay for those extra days if their kid is quarantined? So all of that comes into play. And that was talked very frankly with the parents who were at the meeting, and was sent out in the latest email from Ashley to her parents. She has a super majority who want to go. Students who I would say are at most risk, or who we were worried would be no's, are actual yeses. She's had a very, very positive, overwhelming amount of support. I think the last time she checked, and she's online, so she can probably speak to that. Ashley, I'm gonna allow you to talk if you're online. If you could talk a little bit about numbers of parents who are in favor.
Hi. Okay, sure. I'm at the dog park, so
Sorry.
no, that's okay. So you're saying you want to know about numbers as far as people who voted yes.
Your super majority. Let's just make it easy. How many?
Well, I
have-
can make it really easy for you because I got a hold of the last parent this morning, and so I have a unanimous decision by parents to go.
Yay.
Great.
I know. So that was really easy.
Good.
So question in regards to the financial aspect
Yes.
of somebody does have to stay behind. I'm speculating that there are families who are not in a financial position to pay for additional lodging or airfare, that sort of thing. So how is that addressed or?
So when Ashley put out the question, that was included. That you could potentially have to pay for your child's extra time in DC if they have to be quarantined or if they are, that was part of their decision-making process.
I am clear on that, but and yes, speculatively is different than it
Than
actually
reality.
happening and you having to come up with the money in a very short amount of time.
Yes.
So am I still unmuted?
Oh, yes, you are.
Okay, so what I would tell you is I actually did have a parent today who volunteered without me even really floating the idea about being the kind of the person who stays back if any students are quarantined or sick. And then another parent, a couple parents actually, had suggested a what if fund. And I've sent that, just the initial idea, over to the foundation so that we can, within our fundraising, fundraise a little extra for the purpose of if somebody did, any parent within the group had to come to be with their child if they were sick, that it would cover that or at least defray the costs.
Right.
I
was-
have, go ahead.
I was thinking like we need a deposit or an emergency fund of some sort, because I mean, even airfare might be the least of your worries if you're having to quarantine for 10 additional days. That's food and lodging. That's a pretty hefty expense.
I have a thought. I don't know how realistic it is, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. If let's say we get stuck in DC, do we have any contacts in the DC area? I used to live there, so I potentially could have people that might be willing, that have an apartment or have a place where we could potentially put somebody or a group of folks if we need to keep them back. And I guess I'm saying that maybe we don't have to pay for a hotel if that situation arises. Maybe there are other contingencies that we can look into. It might be a pie in the sky idea, but I would be happy to look into it from my standpoint. Personal contacts. We lived there for 8 years. We have a lot of contacts who might actually have an Airbnb apartment or might be willing to even house if that situation arises. It's just something to keep in mind. Not that we shouldn't have a fund as well, but.
Yeah, and I think that just based off of the conversations the parents have been having, they want to look at all different kinds of ideas like that, but really didn't want to put in all that legwork until
If
the
they
trip
wanted
was
to do it.
approved.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's
Would you
great.
say that's pretty accurate, Ashley?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think there's a lot of really good ideas out there, like what you
Yeah.
just suggested. And I think we have some very generous parents, just based on side conversations that I've heard, that are willing to put into that fund to make sure that their children absolutely can go to
Get to
Washington
go.
DC.
Does
That is
seem
the
like a
impetus of
priority.
all of it.
That's great. From
Yeah.
a fundraising perspective for the trip in general, are you guys gonna do a sportsman's
Yes.
banquet and all that? Okay.
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Though that team has been working already and also thinking outside the box, because they know they have to make more money. And so they're looking at things they haven't done before. for Sportsman's Banquet. I think it's going to be exciting when it comes out. And, and Ashley's group, I think, if you look at the information that I sent you, it's, they've been doing concession stands. They've been doing concession stands at MSU, and they still have some of those to do. The eighth graders were the top selling class for the pie resale, so they're highly motivated. They're doing their dinner for two raffle at the Christmas program on Thursday. They have their sweetheart spaghetti supper, and just looking at every opportunity to raise and make money. Like I said, they are highly motivated.
I'm super excited that they're gonna try to go to DC.
Yeah,
I
this will
think
be
it's
my
great.
first year of them going to DC,
Yep.
so that's exciting.
Nicely done, Ashley.
Yeah.
Oh,
All your hard work.
Thanks. I've got a good team. I would definitely say that.
That's
Thanks,
good to
Ash.
hear. Yeah,
Perfect.
that has been the case. So it's refreshing. All right, so with that,
I'm doing a motion. I
Yes.
make a
Yes.
motion that we approve the 8th grade trip to DC from May 22nd to 27, 2022.
A second.
for discussion. Public comment. I do not see any. Okay, with that, all those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Yay, that's very exciting. That's a big
news.
question mark that
Yeah,
isn't hanging over heads. Now they can like really come up with some great solutions to the really complex issues. Boy, that we just want our children to be healthy while they're over there, and our parents. So, and then the last safe action item, I would ask that you just remove it from the school safety walkthrough,
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
because I
right.
didn't type
Since
it up.
we aren't there yet.
I didn't type it up. It's there, it's done, but I haven't typed it up yet.
we're taking
next
it.
on the agenda is a discussion item of long-range facility strategic plan revisit. And Teresa's included the long-range facility plan. I asked for this to be included on our agenda because come January, next month, we're going to need to decide January, right?
January, February, yeah.
Whether we are gonna ask for a new building levy. Our building reserve levy expires. So that safety net that we currently have will be no longer unless we go back out to vote for that with a failed bond. We're kind of in a place where we need to make a decision. So I just wanted to give you guys heads up to be mulling that over so that we can make that decision next month and let the county know that we'll be running or not running an election. on
And that would be in the
topic.
May.
Yeah, it would be on the May ballot.
Okay.
Any words of wisdom?
I think my personal sentiment is that our community is not in a place right now to pass a bond. They don't see the desperate need for it that some of us do. So with that, I feel like we have to do the best with what we can with what we have. And there are issues in our building that have to be addressed. And I think the most effective way to do that right now and the greatest chance of something passing is to ask for that smaller reasonable amount through a building reserve. If we want to be able to address some of those facility maintenance emergencies and immediate needs that come up. That's
And I think the challenge and the thing that you need to, probably weigh between now and making that decision is if you do a building reserve levy, how will that affect the passing of the future bond, right? Because you're increasing their taxes. The changing demographics of our community, like I see it in the folks that are moving in, we're getting younger families, you know, for so long, we were really, and even though our enrollment isn't showing it, we have a lot of younger families who are in district involved, who were not here when we went out to bond.
My development in the last year,
You've had
I could change a whole bunch of changes, and we have got, there's a bunch of little kids running
Mhm.
around there.
What development is that?
Bear Creek.
properties. Like on both
Yeah.
sides.
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
road
yeah,
down
yeah.
there.
So
And
if
remember, we have that other subdivision
And then
Coming
coming in.
if we do a levy, is it another 3-year levy? Then it would be.
It's
Yeah,
a
how does that
5-year
work?
levy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hold us over
and
until we have a
taxable
bond
values,
Going way up.
well,
for
they're
now.
going up, but the cost of the levies will be dispersed more, especially as they are building over there.
Mhm.
And so the mills that it's gonna take to create the funds that we're asking for will be less because it's spread amongst more
Greater.
properties.
Mhm.
And that's for both a bond or a building reserve levy. The real question is, how long will it take for the community to shift percentage-wise to a yes vote on a bond? Because I think our no votes are no votes. You know, I'm not sure any amount of information or conversation would change a lot of those no votes. I might be wrong about that. And so doing a building reserve levy would get us through. Would it get us new bleachers? No. We'll still be sitting on chairs for a while. You know, I can think of better ways to spend $30,000 to $50,000,
Yeah.
you know, on our school than new bleachers. We'd still be sitting on chairs. We would, you know, right now, core, we're using those ESSER 3 funds for all of our HVAC, all those things. There, you're gonna be seeing bills from them all through your claim warrants right now. But there's gonna come a time when that boiler's gonna have to be replaced, and that's not something that, you know, and we still have some money in our building reserve, but it's gonna go away pretty quickly, even though right now for all the core stuff, we're using ESSER funds. The plumbing and kitchen stuff is coming out of building reserve.
Mhm.
And so it'll go away pretty quick.
For the building reserve, just to also take into consideration. Technically, they won't see an increase in their taxes or mills if we pass it. It just won't come off the books once we go out the bond and if that passes. So that, I mean, that's the biggest.
Might go down.
Yeah.
Still not go
Well,
down.
yeah, I mean, most likely we will
Right,
see
because it's like it's falling off.
their mills go down.
Mhm.
With passing it, it's not something that we're adding to
Right,
their
Yeah,
taxes now.
technically it should
It's
go
just,
down.
it's just carrying over if we pass it. So it's, technically, it's not something that people would see an increase in their taxes from. It's just not coming off the books.
right,
Whenever we go to bond.
yes,
go out for
thank
bond.
you.
It's
It's
just
kind of
one
like
of
the old
those.
bond falling off.
Yeah, it would have been nice to be able to
Just keep moving, but
Right.
not
it's the
see
same
that
scenario.
huge decrease and then have to increase it by.
And I don't know if we have the feasibility to ask for a larger building reserve.
I
than
think there's a max on what we can ask
Based
for,
on
and I,
taxable value, or,
Mhm.
yeah,
so that may have increased. So you would speculate that in the 5 years since it was initially passed, that
And my recommendation, is if that's the route you guys go, that you ask for the most you can,
yeah, if that's.
especially if we don't see a real shift in demographics in terms of who would vote yes or no for a bond for another 5 years.
So I mean, I
You
guess
need
that
to
would
be
be
able to
one thing
fix
that we
things.
need to check on is to see.
Yeah.
see
the
what our
amounts
math
that we can-
ask for.
Well, this is the discussion that triggers it, so.
And then,
And the mills. Right, so we could kind of
so we can,
have a ballpark of how it would affect
Yeah.
taxpayers.
I mean, technically, we could ask for less in a. Hey, we'll ask for a little bit less this go around, knowing that we're gonna have to go to the bottom.
Yeah, we could do that as well. You wanna chime in?
Yeah. Also kind of see where we're sitting on the pack that was being created for the bond.
I think we do have a group of community members who are ready to go when we are ready to go. They asked
Still.
me.
Okay, that would be the next thing, because
I
we
even,
want to make sure that we have.
and today I got a call from Sky,
Hmm,
just checking on us, seeing where we are. I said, we're in a holding pattern.
We're without a business manager and a district clerk.
I just keep.
Everything's great.
Could you engineer one of those for us?
We're doing just.
Um,
We cry ourselves to sleep.
We, you have a mouse in your pocket.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, yeah, so just
She's always touching base.
be mulling that over, and if questions arise or pieces of information that you want, let Teresa know, or
Well, I think it's also, I
come
mean,
to the agenda setting meeting with.
Well, January, I'll probably even give you a, overview, because I think it is the February meeting where you have to call the
yeah, it
election.
has to be so many days.
Because you have to
Mhm.
call that and
At least 9 minutes, right?
Because what, and then do we have anybody who's, do we have anybody
have a-
whose term is
am I
up?
up?
Are
she
you at
says
year
expectantly.
3?
Patty
Okay.
is.
So,
22.
Yeah, so
I think
we
I'm
have to
23.
call an election anyway.
Anyways,
because board,
but we do need
seats.
that language.
Yeah.
ready to go.
Mhm.
I mean, another thing that we need to think about before that is for a bond, are we willing to seriously start moving forward, whether we have a business manager in place or not?
I feel like that would be highly difficult.
Right, I don't think that's. a
Just
good
gonna
idea.
throw that out there off the
Of
cuff.
our superintendent.
I think we're getting close.
'Cause I
To
mean-
somebody.
But even with
Because
that,
if
you
not,
want to
then
give them,
that changes really whether or not we're
It's like
that
having
close
Christmas
to.
without a mom. I don't know how. we
But-
would do
well,
that.
and I'm
If
not
you
sure
go that
that's,
direction, it just means that there are parts of my job that I have to. cut back on.
Right.
The
and that's, I
classroom
don't think
piece.
where. we
And I
want
don't
to
want to
cut
do
And
it.
I think we
don't-
should take the chance of not having a bond pass again, then we would have
No.
2 bonds.
But I do think having building reserve to pay a project manager out of it.
Mhm.
Building, what are they called? I call them project managers. Is that what they're called? No,
No.
Owner's rep.
owner's rep,
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To start that process.
Yeah.
Is a viable thing, but, because you can use your building reserve money for that sort of thing.
Okay. Any other questions, comments before we move to the next item? Nay?
No.
Mhm.
Action item, information from MTSBA regarding Zoom meetings.
Right, Julie had me move this down to an action item in case you guys wanted to actually act on it. My recommendation, I was not making a recommendation to act on it. We had talked about Zoom versus no Zoom versus if you're on Zoom, can you just, some of the questions I asked were, can we just broadcast it out without taking public comment from Zoom? Because the logistics, the physical logistics are difficult, but then we also have times when folks are not identifying themselves properly or are not maybe conveying themselves properly on Zoom. And it's harder to manage the Open Meetings Act with Zoom. And just what our options were. And Chris Goss, basically, he said that if we're going to hold meetings on Zoom, you have to take public comment as part of the Open Meetings Act. I came back and I said, well, what about the districts who prior to COVID used to just broadcast Facebook Live, you know, their board meetings?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, where you couldn't comment.
Said that he felt like that there's, you know, a certain level of violation of the Open Meetings Act because you're not allowing for, that does not allow for public comment. So then my next question was, so since we're in person at school, do we have to broadcast our meetings via Zoom at all? Can we just go to straight in-person meetings? It's really you guys' call in regards to that. But MTSBA's pretty much standing position on this is that the door was opened for Zoom. And since you have the capability and the ability to do it, you should stick with that. It is up to, there's no policies or clear recommendations one way or another. He just felt like once that door was opened, you have to stay going down that pathway. Particularly if you're meeting in a place that does not allow for social distancing. And if you were to go down that road, you would start holding your meetings in the cafeteria or the gymnasium for your, probably the cafeterias that doesn't interfere with sports. And then you could, then that is equal access under the law and everyone has the opportunity to provide public input. Based off of his and my conversation and the email back and forth, I wasn't making any kind of a recommendation about Zoom. Yes, it's difficult right now. It's handy because it makes a recording of our meetings. And so because I'm not doing minutes, people want to know what happened, I just send them the meeting. It's nice and simple. And it puts us in like this much compliance with the minutes piece of the Open Meetings Act. It doesn't actually put us in compliance with that. We need to get them on our website and that sort of thing. But so I didn't make a recommendation, but if you all wanted to act on that information, you can. It's under action.
Well,
Or if you have questions for me, that's kind of a brief overview of.
I think we should stick with Zoom. We should offer up Zoom. We've heard from a community member. I think let's move forward into, to the new age of technology, and it helps satisfy the minutes. Like you said, is it really that hard to do? It'll only get easier as we continue to do it. It'll become part of the setup. Yeah. And we don't have to move the meetings. I like this intimate setting.
I think my biggest recommendation is what I did at the beginning of this meeting, which is you have to have your name, your first and last name.
Be really clear about it, the
Of who you are.
parameters.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and if you don't, if you want to leave mom's iPhone as your name, you,
But don't.
well, because anyone who
Then we can't
speaks out in a
recognize you.
public meeting, they have to
Has
give
to
their
state their
name.
Right. Then
They
we
have to
just
state
don't
their names.
recognize you at that
Okay.
point.
Right, and so, right, we just don't recognize them if they're not going to follow those criteria.
I might disagree with Chris on the, and maybe it's just a Montana thing, and I haven't looked at the law closely enough, but might disagree with him on that. Why can't we just broadcast it out? Like across the country, that's what they do. They live stream from a
A
website.
lot of board meetings.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I might disagree with him,
Yeah.
but that being said,
Even
But
the
I-
county commission.
He said that,
Yeah.
he said
Yeah.
to be, most in compliance with the open meetings.
I hear.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Okay,
the
I
next
hear
You know,
one.
MTSBA always goes for
The
the
conservative.
most stringent.
Right.
But it is a
Because they're
convenience to our
legally-
community.
It is, and we have said, as a board, we have made this statement out loud and documented that we want to be as open and transparent as possible.
Yes.
And by shutting that down now, that is not sending that message at all.
Yeah, I think our goal is to
Get better at it.
Yeah.
get better at it and set, set guidelines.
I mean,
Make
we
sure there's
have the
clear
ability,
procedures on
Teresa,
what
Yeah.
to,
we're
if
asking.
somebody's out of line, if we say you're cut off at 2 minutes,
You don't-
if you go past 2 minutes and we can tell they're gonna go
Just
well
mute.
past it,
Mhm.
mute that, like, see, we have that ability.
Yes, that's what I mean by getting
Yeah.
better at it.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly. Or if somebody's getting inappropriate, we can interrupt and say, hey, this is not gonna be okay. First warning, second warning, you get muted. Sorry.
So,
Do we have to act on it?
no.
It's just, okay,
No,
good.
just a
It was just a-
discussion.
Yeah.
If you wanted to change something.
Would you like to act, Mary?
No.
Okay.
Next set meeting date for superintendent's evaluation.
Yay.
We typically do this in January.
Yeah.
Typically, you do the evaluation in January.
Because we have to,
Business manager, we would do in February.
March, usually we do it about the second week of January for superintendent, and usually the second week in March for business manager.
Yeah, for spring break.
I think we've done it once, but normally that's where we sit is.
What is the end of second quarter?
That would be the 21st of January.
With superintendent, I was thinking that we have to have something on file before a specific date.
Why is that?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I
contract.
don't
Okay.
know.
Are you thinking
Maybe
about the
that's,
contract?
why we normally want to have it completed.
I think
Before
that's
we're-
February.
Because my contract.
Because
is
we normally
usually
want
in
it done
February.
before the end of.
Well, in Montana, there's that stipulation that a superintendent can only have a maximum of 2 years on their contract. And if it is not brought up at a board meeting, once there's 1 year on the contract, it is automatically renewed.
Renewed, yeah.
Really?
If it's regardless of whether it's on the.
Let's do
board-
it in March.
So I
Seems
think
how
we
we've been
normally
practicing.
try to have this completed before our January,
Which is when?
Before, and the January.
before
meeting-
our January.
Regular
board
meeting.
regular
Is that?
And that is
Oh,
on
yeah.
the 19th.
Oh, boy.
Oof, and I'm gone. Well.
Typically,
I
that's,
feel like I'm getting older. It's really hard to fit things into like an entire month and a half's timeline. Easy, but it's not.
Well, versus before the February meeting.
yes.
Because the February meeting would be the decision on the contract,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Well, what if we held it like the 10th?
And that's our typical practice. That's what I'm. It would definitely have to be done before that February.
Mhm.
But we've been practicing in arrears, kind of, in the past.
I think y'all were on time last year.
Did we in January?
I recall it being quite early, right after Christmas.
Good.
It was early.
I've
I
never,
was kind of
I don't
freaked
think
out.
I've ever had it outside of January
Okay.
in my head. The one that we didn't get done was
Carries
Carrie's.
that we moved,
And
that's
that
right,
was.
okay.
uh,
Yeah, hers
Yeah.
migrated quite a
First
bit.
Hers was in
COVID.
2020. We didn't do it all.
Right.
Okay.
Not at all.
And look
I
what
don't
that
think
netted
s-
us. She's gone.
I don't think that's why she's gone.
Just kidding.
Would it make sense to do it
Land
that last
evaluation,
week
right?
of January fall? I think it would just be valuable to have that end of quarter academic data to maybe discuss and have goal setting.
So what,
To reflect on.
What we do that one
so what day were you? looking at?
anytime you want.
It would be done before our agenda setting meeting.
Okay.
Does that,
So when?
like the week of the 24th?
And then in February,
It would be an agenda item on our February meeting.
the 21st is a half day.
Mhm. Really is.
Are you saying you want to do it?
No, I'm just saying that
Just know that.
for me, can you remember why that's a half day?
Because it's
Probably
the end of the
because
quarter.
grade.
Or
Oh,
end of the
that's right.
semester.
There you go.
Mhm.
Thank you. Like, what is it for?
Luckily,
mean,
you just
when-
gave us that.
When
date.
will we have all that data and information?
Which kind of data do you want? That's the other thing. I can give you whatever you want. In terms of academic data. Financial data.
No, I'm not.
But there's
concerned
no
about
like
the financial.
testing, so you'd be basically looking at grades.
Yeah, because we are not doing an interim test until February. They
Right.
didn't, so you would have star data. Star data and grades. And then just, GEMS just came out with all the, you can go and compare and contrast your district against other districts. So that's been fun.
Yeah, that is always fun to look at.
So you're thinking of doing it the week of the 24th?
I was just thinking of seeing trend lines in regards to academic growth would be valuable.
Yeah.
Since.
So just overall trend lines.
So with star data,
Start that
Yeah.
would be valuable.
I've got it.
So data per,
Are you star testing in January?
We star test
frequently.
It'd be
before
mid-quarter.
Christmas. We
Right.
start testing
Okay.
before Christmas. But we also, because of growing gators, a large portion of our population is
Star tests more. than
not
that.
just star testing, but we also have these other little tests that they give. They give us progress monitoring on all of our kids. So I can show trend data on all of our kids.
But with that said, we can do it before then, if the end of quarter, doesn't have a huge bearing, because I'm not necessarily interested in grades per se. More of
Yeah, 'cause
star
I'm-
test and other assessment. So
Mhm,
what
I
works
remember
best
that one.
for everyone? Do you guys have a optimal?
Well, MSU starts on the 19th and I don't have my schedule down in terms of what classes I'm taking during the day.
So you'd like it prior to the 19th?
Yeah, although I'm gone the 12th to the 16th. and then
Well, that's useful.
So how about the
So
10th
the
or the
after,
12th?
Mondays, what?
10th or the 12th, Monday or Tuesday?
The 10th would be,
10th or 11th?
10th or the
Or excuse
11th
me, is
would
that what I
actually
said?
be
Or did I say
ideal.
prior?
Tenth or
Are we in
12th?
January?
Yeah.
Yes, January 10th or 12th. How does
10th
the-
or
10th or 11th? Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
Lord help us.
I don't wanna make it all
We're
about me.
catching you. We got you.
You know what I put it
It's
down?
Christmas.
Mary?
It's
Yeah.
Christmas time.
What time do you want to do it at?
We can do it anytime.
I'm flexible, so that's probably
time
more a
works for you?
question for Teresa.
Later in the day is better. Usually typically about 3 o'clock things kind of settle
Something's
down.
very wrong with my calendar.
It has you in white. That's it.
It does.
It's empty.
Don't show back up after Christmas. break? Is that what- She's.
Oh, no.
May
You gotta have a
or may not.
superintendent.
Are we talking the 10th?
Or the
10th
11th.
or the 11th.
Yeah, something's
10th would be
really,
better.
really wrong with my calendar because there's nothing
Well,
other
maybe,
than there's a student council meeting on the 11th.
right, there is a student council. meeting
And
on
I
the
have
11th.
my math facing alignment meeting at 3:30 or 3:20. That's with my math teachers
On the 11th.
on the 10th, but
How long
those
does
are
that
easily
take?
rescheduled. 30 minutes.
Well, what
But
I may
The
I
whole
propose
day,
4
both
o'clock
days
on
is
the 11th?
absolutely, there's nothing freakishly on my calendar. And by the way, that week is law enforcement appreciation. Just FYI.
Well, might I propose, since Patty, I know this kind of pulled you late, but I'm
Oh, I
gonna
don't
propose
care.
4 o'clock on Tuesday, the
No.
11th.
I don't.
Are you
go
done with your
home
staff
and do
by
that.
I
then?
said Monday
yeah.
was better for me.
Oh,
Tuesday, the
Monday.
kids have a dental appointment. I could change it, but
Oh, no, you can't change.
How
dinner.
about
Actually,
Monday
can't
then?
go like 6 months.
I know, that's the problem.
How
Monday's
about
good.
Monday at
I'm good.
4?
with
Will you be done with
Monday.
your teacher meeting?
Yeah, because they're, they're out at 3:50.
Monday at 4.
Is that
All
okay
right.
with you,
Yeah.
Julie?
Mhm.
Monday,
So
the
Monday,
10th,
January 10th at 4
o'clock.
PM.
we are calling this the
My evaluation.
principal superintendent evaluation.
When is our board meeting?
It
The
is the 19th. And so then the next question is about the collection of your guys' information for that evaluation, which Erin has. Would you like someone in the office downstairs to get that ready and sent out to, or Fraulein to get that ready and sent out to everyone, or?
Did you send that to me?
I thought I sent it to everybody.
He sent it to everybody.
Okay.
Oh, I never.
And I,
You did recently?
A couple
Bef-
months ago,
before our last meeting.
at least, yeah.
But you just,
Okay.
you didn't ask us to respond to it. You just want
Nope,
us to look.
I
at it.
just sent it so you guys could look
I
at
did see
it.
that, yes.
Cause,
need to
cause
change
our
something.
previous,
That's
I
right.
guess I don't remember, whenever we had it on our agenda
We couldn't
to
find it.
discuss or make changes to her evaluation tool. I was not able to figure out a way to get that sent to you guys before the
Right.
meeting. And then I just forgot to send it to you guys
And
before
then
the
our
meeting.
discussion was that we probably just had someone that
The-
could figure out a better platform.
Yeah.
The platform was, I mean,
Yes,
the
better than
the
what we
way
have.
it is set up, the questions and everything, I really like that format. It's
Just
the
need to-
tool is a pain in it. But
Yeah,
to navigate, specifically navigating how you,
relay it back.
give
Right.
that information, like the results is very tough to
So I will put that on my.
print, to even like administer to other people. It shows up jumbled. Doesn't show a good.
Is a week long enough for you guys to complete that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
It's
I
almost
mean,
better to
if
not
we
have
don't do it
thrown
in
out.
one
okay.
day, we haven't done it.
Do you want it 2 days?
Maybe it's better to have the pressure.
Okay,
And I can resend that to you guys if you need it.
I'll take a look and we'll find a different.
I mean, I
platform.
think the
I'll put that on
And
there.
you.
What we
probably could give
had
it to
for
Fraulein,
Okay,
and she might be able to-
evaluating criteria was good.
I
It's
like-
just the platform that we need help
Platform is
with.
tough.
yeah.
So maybe Fraulein can be the master of that.
So I
She's
don't
a
know if we
problem
can
solver.
switch it over to Survey Monkey, or if there's something else out there that would allow. Or,
Google, help us.
because it's through, well, it's like through like Google
Forms.
Forms.
And so it's like I've given you guys like printed out PDFs of data that I've gotten off of Google Forms. And so I don't know why that evaluation can't work the same way.
Maybe it can, maybe.
I don't
we just
know.
need to-
Well, I don't know.
You know, where you've
I don't know
not
if
seen all
it's-
the responses from parents. It's the same kind of thing, isn't it? You know, like when I would do surveys and they'd be open-ended and people would regurgitate all kinds of opinions and things, and you guys I printed out the responses, so maybe it's just a formatting thing that she can work on.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll reach out to her.
Okay. You see her every day, I'll just give her a heads up, it's coming. I'll say,
Yes.
hey, read. reach out to Julie about my evaluation.
That's going to be fantastic.
Um,
Okay,
doesn't
next
feel
item,
fantastic.
personnel hire.
So, one administrative move that should this be approved that I'm making is changing Erica's position into a paraprofessional position, not necessarily instructional. To provide more on the administrative assistant side, because I'm not able to get everything done. And since we don't have a clerk, someone who's got skill sets on that end and on the financial end that can assist with that. We, those of you who interviewed Joni, there was a big consensus, oh, she would make a great administrative assistant down there. And so I'm asking for her. Just to help fill those gaps that I'm not able to fill right now. We've got to get someone doing minutes, whether it's this person or it's Fraulein, someone has got to get them. Other areas that Erica is responsible for, her job description, even under the paraprofessional, it's basically has the same pieces, just how much of the job is in there, and some areas that we are in desperate need of Erica to take care of is the website and getting things up to date. If you go into our website, there's some really, really bad stuff, and she just doesn't right now in her current role have the time to do it, even though she's really good at it. It's like when she does take the time to do it, because she has the time, she's really good at it. And so finding those things that Erica is really good at and giving them to her so she can do them well in time versus, and then have an administrative assistant who helps me on the paperwork side and all the other pieces. That's what I'm asking for. In the end, even when a district clerk is hired, Carrie was filling a person and a half's position. So keeping Erica, same pay, same days, all that, but none of that changes. Just putting another person up front to help with all that. It's
It has more of the
financial
side of things.
management, helping with board packets, helping with things like, one of the big pieces is the financial side, the P cards, the receipting of money, all of that financial piece. Erica's really good at requisitioning, getting things ordered, receiving, invoicing, all of those pieces. Especially with a part-time business manager, has been a real struggle. Yeah, not a strong point. And this person has those pieces. That's what she's doing right now in her current position. So, and parsing out the two, we have an open paraprofessional position. This is a shortcut. I'll just be frank. It's a shortcut. And then
And there may be a
before the end
temporary
of the
title.
school year, school secretary is what I want to call Erica, because she's good on the affective side, meaning she's good when parents come to the front or call the school and she can communicate. She's really good on that piece. She's a familiar face, all of those pieces. That's really more of a school secretary position, really, on that side. And And a piece that I'm looking at putting in that new job description is the adult ed piece. Where that person can flex their time if there's an after-school event, adult ed event,
Mhm.
they can leave early on another day so that they're not over their 40-hour week. Gives flexibility for appointments and things like that that they wouldn't have.
And that's for the secretary side.
Mhm. And that's, I spoke with Erica a little bit about that today to see if she felt like that would be something she'd be interested in. And then down the road, not this year, but next year, also athletic paperwork director piece.
Mhm.
Because right now, while Beth is doing a great job, she's not here. Right? She's,
Mhm. She's got other responsibilities
And-
outside of the school during that time of day when those things need to be done.
yes.
Yeah.
And Erica picks up a lot of that piece,
Mhm.
scheduling for the nurse for physicals and collecting paperwork and all of that, which is the athletic director's position, but there's nobody to collect all those things.
Mhm.
She collects them for the AD and then the AD sorts them out and does her thing with them. I see us down the road not needing an AD.
Well, we can probably clearly state too that we've probably been understaffed up front for a long time, but we also haven't had administration in the past to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I think we were doing all right.
But underserving ourselves.
Yeah. And I don't like a heavy administration, like money should go to kids, but I think budget wise, everything's budgeted for this year. Like this is an affordable position.
Mhm.
Next year, we make the adjustments to things like adult ed, to keep both of those positions.
Mhm. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think that's a great, efficient, effective.
All right, I'd
And
like
then-
to,
Oh, sorry. Well, then we'll be looking at coming up with just forward thinking, coming up with title, job position for this
Right.
transition on the other side too.
And let me be just straight up clear. I don't consider Erica a paraprofessional.
Right.
Because it's a job opening, I can make that shift. Like that's within my purview. Giving her the title of secretary requires me to come up with an additional FTE to present to you all, because it's not technically budgeted for.
Mhm.
And so this is a quick fix that at the end of this fiscal year, all those, what you're talking about, an actual
Can
job
take
description.
place.
So that when we give out contracts for next year, because her contract isn't going to change. Erica's contract is the same through the end of the school year, but
Mhm.
next year have a different title on it. Job description would be different.
It's basically like a, non-instructional para, like you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although there will be times when she's in a classroom because we're so short subbed that,
Which everyone's covering for everyone at this point.
yes.
That's a part of the
And-
program.
Yeah. I mean, she's already spending a huge chunk of her day in the cafeteria,
Mhm.
managing that and doing, she's really good at it, so.
Okay.
That's really quiet. Honestly, there's a big piece here that is a need that I need someone to help manage the logistical parts of my job,
Mhm.
that I'm dropping balls everywhere. I feel like I'm dropping balls when we talk about my evaluation. I can tell you all the places where I feel like I'm not meeting the mark. Because I'm doing a lot of clerical stuff,
Mhm.
which sounds, maybe that sounds. Right. I don't know.
You gonna make you?
sure, I'd like to make a motion to hire Joni Costello for the remainder of 2021-2022 school year, beginning on January 3rd, 2022. Obviously, pending a adequate fingerprint and background check.
Board discussion? Public comment?
We don't take public comment on personal issues.
Thank you.
We can. We just can't take comments. They can say whether they're in favor of or
Okay.
against.
Then
Not personal love hate.
Yeah,
correct.
they can say, I am for this hire or against this hire.
Okay.
That's
you.
their, yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're thinking. Misty's the last of the Mohicans.
Thanks, Misty.
All right, with that, all those in favor?
Yeah, that's,
Might be able to get my desk cleaned off.
That might not be true.
Okay, maybe not, but things like that,
A woman can, right?
that school safety walkthrough, that's one of those things I can say. Here it is. If you don't understand something, chicken scratch, ask, but please take care of that. And so it's in a board packet, it's done, you know. It literally just fell off my plate, bounced on the floor with
It's
that.
in the pile.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible.
Next is coaching staff and extracurricular hiring.
So excited. We have girls basketball coaches,
Awesome.
recommendations. And then Rochelle Dierenfeld, I'm recommending for the Washington DC Assistant Advisor, Ashley's partner in crime. I'm also asking, currently, you all had approved Sarah Malott as Expedition Yellowstone. I'm asking to remove her, the future person to be determined whether or not we go. Miss Albers has requested not to do Expedition Yellowstone because her plate is very full with learning a new subject area. And so she asked not that she would go as a chaperone, but did not want to lead the charge. And so we would, and I have some teachers who are interested in taking that, but I don't
Yeah.
think we need to go there if we're not actually going to go.
Okay, and when do we find out?
We're supposed to go in April, right? They had told me January, February.
Next month,
Yep.
right?
They will let us know. I guess that was the beauty of us doing it in April.
And their
Look at the
hurdles are
April
still
dates.
just the COVID, the housing.
Yeah, they
the-
canceled all their fall semester. They didn't do it at all. And the lightest communication I got from them was that they'll be happy to do stuff with our school, here at the school, or even via Zoom like we did last year.
Okay.
Right now, they are not making any motions towards having Expedition Yellowstone.
So we're not expecting it to
I will
open up.
be very surprised if they have it. Very surprised,
Mhm.
partly because they canceled all of the ones
Well,
in
and a
the
lot
fall.
of it too, I think, is run by, an older demographic too, that serves the park and
Yeah.
it's a more higher risk, I'm sure, for them to open up.
Then on the other page is just the page we show you every time. It's the same people, just what's gonna change off of our stipends.
Oh, that's the
And
tiniest
so
one I've ever
It is
seen.
tiny, sorry. But head girls basketball, Christy Donaghy played college ball. Big basketball skill set, and her and Ashley have already started.
It's gonna be awesome.
Well, they want to have an open gym over the break, and they're planning that, and we're getting all the kids physicals and things done this week, and just getting everybody involved. She is already fingerprinted and background checked for our school district, so
Okay.
that's a nice thing, and she's raring to go, and Ashley's raring to go with her. So Now I just have to find a wrestling coach. That's it. It's my last coach. Wrestling.
I move to approve the coaching staff and extracurricular positions hiring recommendations for the board packet.
Second.
Quick question in regards to the assistant advisor. Is there like a system in the past? There was talk about kind of a rotating schedule so that staff members got equal opportunity to go and it wasn't just always the same people. I didn't know if there's any sort of,
Since we haven't been to
Setup.
DC for 2 years, really, there's very few people left who have been
okay.
advisors. And for a long time, it was Carrie going
She was coming.
several times. But it sort of played out like this. Does anyone want to go to DC? And Rochelle goes, yeah, I would do it. And that was the only one who was like, yeah, I'll go to DC.
Mhm.
I think we have others who might be interested down the road,
Mhm.
but Rochelle was the one who, that's kind of how it went
Yeah.
about. It's, she put it out there, who's interested.
Only one step
Yeah.
forward.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
If we run into a issue where more people want to go,
Right.
we can talk about the rotating schedule, but yeah. I mean, she's just been a teacher for 2 years, right? Three. This is her
Yeah.
3rd year.
I think 3.
All right. All those in favor?
Did we lose our public? Yeah, we did.
All right. And we are tabling safety
I'm sorry.
walkthrough. No worries.
Thank you, actually.
And we don't have a safety committee report. I do have the staff, Missy Schultz. It's going to be the teacher representative. Oh, good. And the safety committee makes sense. NDI, behavior, RTI, all that is under her purview, 504, all that. So that makes sense. And the gentleman from the Department of Labor and Industry is regularly calling me to see if we're taking care of our business.
Who's on it?
You know,
God forbid there's children being.
so just from the safety perspective, not that I really want to bring this up because it's not a great topic to talk about. But with the Michigan school shooting, one thing they did say that saved a lot of lives is they had done a lot of active shooting drills.
Yeah.
So I just think it's something we need from a safety committee perspective to keep on our plate.
I'm a fan.
We kind of stopped doing them, I think, between
I think
Yeah,
there was
we
a,
haven't
when I
done-
first got here, there was a big conflict.
there was a
Yes.
bad meeting that I
Yes.
was in with a specific teacher and a specific superintendent.
And we haven't done the
And it
active
was crazy.
shooter drill since I've been here, even though we do lockdown and those kinds of drills. We do need to.
It's a
those
reality,
things.
unfortunately.
Jason Russell, I mean, we do have, there is.
We
a
have
resource.
resources who are
Jason Russell
ready.
will come do it.
Ready to do it. Our SRO, the fire department, they're all ready to do emergency drills with us.
How involved are the kids in those? Like, you do kind of wonder, like, how does that play out with them?
For the active shooter drill.
They
For
they're
them
part of
feeling
it.
safe while they're in school.
And I've seen it done on many,
They must hear
like,
about this.
like a spectrum
like
of
Jake saw on
involvement.
TV The other morning.
In my last district, the high school drama kids used to, like, they would be,
Do a mock-up.
yeah, and a central office administrator would walk into my building, hand me an envelope. You know, they would say, oh, it's gonna be this week. They would hand me an envelope that had the scenario that was going on. And it would go live. And it was as if it was actually happening, and they monitored us
Right,
on
how does
how
that
we
Crud out of little
handled
kids,
it.
though?
You know, the
That's
last year
what
I
I
was in
wonder
that
about.
district, there was an assistant principal in another school that didn't realize that they were doing the drill. He
Mhm.
had been at training and then had come on campus and he saw a student in a hoodie with a weapon, and he tackled that kid and injured the actor pretty heavily. I shouldn't laugh about it, but it just went south fast, like.
Yeah.
So I've seen it from that level, but I've also seen it like in Alaska. We used to do a lot of like drills where you've seen those drills where, you know, there's like a wreck out where they fake the wreck out in front of a high school. To me, just doing lockdowns, talking about that there is a dangerous person trying to get into the building, trying to get in. You don't necessarily have to go into, I think there's some difference between whether or not people should fight or flight. Right?
Maybe as long as the
And that
teachers
was
know
one
what
of the
they should do.
problems.
Well, yeah,
before.
my thought is like what best serves the school but does not emotionally scar the children.
That's
Because
why
I
we
think
have
kids
it.
are already really high stress.
And I think there is still a conflict,
None of the
like,
stress is
not
off
a
of that
conflict, but
as a kid.
Concern.
concern, but also a level of what is best way to teach it, whether it is for just staff or do you involve the students?
Mhm.
Because the thinking of not involving students is you want to make sure that the kids are doing what the teacher needs them to do instead of
Mhm.
doing their own thing, which if you start training them, part of that, they might be more willing to go outside of the box than following the directive of the teacher during those moments.
I think
And
you
so
can
there's
pull-
always,
I think you can pull MSGIA as a resource.
Right.
They do have Jason Alexander, and I think it would be
There's a
super
ton of really
interesting.
great
Because
resources.
I'm sure they would have a perspective
no
on that.
doubt.
Those safety drills, I will say, have been 100% me being reticent. Our teachers do fire drills independently. We haven't pulled the alarms. They were pulled today because we were testing them, but we haven't pulled the alarms and mass evacuated since COVID. Teachers drill with their individual classes, but we haven't mass drilled. We have had shelter in place and lockdown. Just to go through the procedure, so the kids know that they're supposed to follow these directions. But it's just been such a, we have not talked about what if there is an active shooter? What does that look like?
Mhm.
And our new student information system, it's still not connected to Catapult, which is our emergency management system. They're still working on that connector piece. And then I asked Erica, because she's in charge of that piece, she's supposed to train the staff. It was supposed to be Wednesday. But she hasn't been able to get prepared for the training because that connection hasn't happened between the campus. So that teachers have all their mobile information right there with them. So the plan is January 3rd for her to train the staff on our emergency management system. By then, we'll have a clear-cut picture of where we're going to be taking children. Because right now, we have nowhere.
Yeah, not over to the active construction site.
Yeah, that's not good. So we were talking either the park or even take them up to the post office, as far as the post office. Through the tunnel up for an emergency. Just sort of perusing the neighborhood, trying to find the little white church is another option for us. Here in town.
Oh, yeah.
Stacy's.
That's a good.
Stacy's is
I'm
a
all for
construction site too.
now, the Mexican
Yeah.
food restaurant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the word on the
Just,
street.
that's what the ladies at the new market told me,
That's what I was told too in the real estate meeting.
because I went to that.
That's a fun place, isn't it? That little marketplace.
You know, the only thing that was open was the market. The gastropub wasn't, it was too early in the day.
That jump. That's a good-
Um,
It's like 4 o'clock or something.
I
Yeah,
think
but
what's
not
interesting
Mondays,
is that
Fridays.
there is a wine beer bar
Day
area
bar.
that is open from like 10:30 in the morning to, yeah, it's a day drinking
day
place,
bar.
to 2 in the
I've
afternoon.
never heard of
I
that.
was like, that's not good. Right in the middle of the school's lunch hour. That's not good. I told her, I said, don't let any of my teachers or me come over here during that time.
They have all those cool foods though and
They
everything.
really, I mean, it was, I
I'm
was
excited to
impressed
stop in there.
how
Oh,
well,
and
if
the
you
jump
haven't been
itself, they
in,
have great
go by the
drinks.
market, because now we have a new place to order food from, you know, in the area that's a local business, so. Yeah, I'm excited to try out the actual gastropub and their food.
Big news in
We're
Gateway.
growing and changing.
Well, between that and the Mexican food restaurant and. you
We'll
know,
never have to leave.
It's,
We're not gonna know.
it just
do
needs a
with so many
grocery
options.
store. Needs a grocery store.
I'm so ready for the outside dining for Stacy's.
Should we adjourn?
Do we have a date for a safety meeting, a safety committee meeting?
No, to set that together.
No, yeah. I
Okay.
said that
Um,
together. Hey, I've been busy being an elf. okay?
Before or after we adjourn, can we fit in, I think we should fit in that interview sooner than later if we can.
I gave my things.
I just
Yeah, we
think,
can, let's adjourn
okay,
at
All right,
8:37.
hang on, let me turn this off.
then let's figure out a date for that.